You know, when you think of the Chicago mob, one name just explodes into your mind, right? Al Capone. His whole reign was loud, it was violent, and it absolutely defined an era. But here's the thing. It was also super short. The guy who really shaped the Chicago outfit for the long haul, well, he operated in the shadows. And that's who we're diving into today. I mean, just look at the contrast here. On one side, you've got Capone, a short, fiery public reign that ends in total ruin. And on the other side, Tony Accardo. We're talking over 4 decades of quiet, complete control, ending peacefully at 86 years old. That's something you don't hear about in that world. So that's the big question, isn't it? How did he do it? How did this guy, Accardo, outlast the feds, his rivals, and pretty much the entire golden era of the American mob itself? His story, it's really a masterclass in strategy and a kind of power that very few people ever truly understand.
All right, so to really get how he became the master, you've got to go back to the beginning. We're talking about the ultimate evolution, right? From a street-level enforcer to a corporate-style boss. And that journey started on the tough streets of Chicago. He was born Antonio Leonardo Accardo to Sicilian immigrants. His dad was a shoemaker, but for a kid as ambitious as Tony, the slow, honest path to success, that just wasn't going to cut it. Not when the opportunities from Prohibition were right there for the taking.
So by the time he's 14, just 14, he'd already dropped out of school. He was running with a crew called the Circus Gang. And you can think of them as the minor leagues, the farm team, for what would become the Chicago outfit. This was his real education. But here's the thing that made Tony different, even back then. It wasn't just that he was tough. It was his mind. He saw the bigger picture. He understood this one fundamental rule of survival in that life. Violence is a tool. You only use it when you have to. The guys who always led with their fists first, they were the ones who never lasted. And this is how he got that legendary nickname. The story goes, a young Accardo was sent to handle some rival gangsters who had disrespected Capone. And Al Capone himself was watching as Accardo, with just a baseball bat, brutally and efficiently settled the whole thing. It was a display of ruthless efficiency that would pretty much define his entire career. Capone was so impressed, he started calling him Joe Batters. But you gotta understand, that nickname wasn't just about the violence. It was a brand. It was a symbol that meant you were reliable, you were effective, and you got the job done. And Tony Accardo lived up to that brand for the rest of his life. So that effectiveness, that brand, is what propelled him into his next phase. See, after Capone's empire came crashing down, Accardo didn't just pick up the pieces. He redesigned the whole machine. He became, for all intents and purposes, the CEO of crime. So when Capone got nailed for tax evasion in '31, you'd think it would have been total chaos. But instead, there was this quiet power shift. Sure, Frank Nitti was the public face, but the real power was with Paul Ricca and his top guy, Tony Accardo. By 1947, Accardo was running the whole show, and he did it without the bloody power struggles that tore other crime families apart. Accardo was always playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. He knew the future wasn't in stuff like bootlegging. The real long-term money was in getting into legitimate businesses, controlling unions, and expanding into new ventures like gambling and entertainment. He was always thinking 2 steps ahead of the law. Seriously, he ran the outfit like a modern company. He diversified their portfolio, pushing into legit industries. He saw Las Vegas and knew you didn't just want to run the games, you wanted to own the house. Building and controlling casinos meant you controlled everything. He even created a kind of corporate board, they called it the office, to handle disputes professionally, without all the messy and expensive bloodshed. Every move was about profit and sustainability, not ego. And this whole corporate mindset, it led directly to his #1 survival strategy, invisibility. For Tony Accardo, real power was something you never saw. He perfected the art of having immense influence while staying completely off the radar. I mean, sure, the guy lived in a mansion in a nice suburb and joined country clubs, but he never flaunted it. He filed tax returns. He kept a deliberately low profile because he understood that true power doesn't need to advertise. The second you're in the spotlight, you're a target. Just compare his file to someone like John Gotti in New York. Gotti loved the cameras, the flashy suits, the whole public persona. He wanted to be a celebrity. And in doing that, he made himself the FBI's #1 target. Accardo, he avoided that fatal mistake his entire life. And that invisibility was the secret to his political strategy, which was way more sophisticated than just slipping a few officials some cash. Accardo's goal was to make the outfit a quiet, essential part of Chicago's whole political machine.
You see, Capone just bought people off. It was a transaction. Accardo built deep, mutually beneficial relationships. He used union support to deliver votes, campaign donations to get access. He wove the outfit into the very fabric of the city's power structure. His influence was quiet. It looked clean on paper, but it was incredibly deep, and it lasted for decades.
So how did Accardo manage to keep this empire going into his old age? Well, even when he was semi-retired, his control was absolute. He just transitioned into a new role, a role that cemented his legacy and made sure the outfit would stay stable for generations. He became known as the chairman of the board. He stepped back from the day-to-day stuff. But you can bet that no major decision was made without his final say-so. This also shows his genius for succession planning. He built a system that could outlast any one person, which prevented the infighting that destroyed other families. And he never stopped innovating. Even in his later years, he was pushing the organization to modernize. We're talking about embracing computer technology, using offshore banking, forging international connections. He was always anticipating change instead of just reacting to it. That's the sign of a true visionary leader, no matter what business you're in. Which brings us, right here, to this number, 86. That's how old Tony Accardo was when he died of natural causes peacefully in his own bed in 1992. In a world where most of his peers met violent, ugly ends, his peaceful death wasn't just a success, it was a miracle. And what's maybe most remarkable about his final years is everything that didn't happen. There were no last-minute RICO charges, no bloody succession wars, no dramatic public fall from grace. He died the same way he lived, quietly managing everything from behind the scenes. And in the end, Tony Accardo's story leaves you with this really fascinating question. The guy had undeniable genius in leadership, in strategy, in organization. The very same skills that built his criminal empire could build a legitimate one. So what, then, is it that truly defines a legacy?